CSU Pueblo coming to town as the Fort Lewis College Skyhawks football team get set for football home game number 2. I'm joined by the Skyhawks coaching staff, head coach Johnny Cox, defensive backs coach Jordan Bible, and kicker Hunter Villavicencia. Thank you guys for joining. And coach, I'm not sure you understood the assignment. I was asking for football players and you bring me a kicker.
Yeah, I understood. But yeah, Hunter's a huge part of our team, and without our kicker, we would be hopeless out there. So
no, I just had to give the obligatory kicker smack.
Right. They always have a unique part of the team. A little bit less physical in nature. You don't really want your kicker. Although Hunter tries to just hammer people. You should see it. I mean, I don't know if we put it on the highlights this time, but he's been out there being very physical. So he's not your typical non-physical part of the team. So,
Hunter, tell me, how do you approach physicality on a football field?
Whenever I see that returner run back to our sideline, I just try and go head hunt him.
You pin your ears back. Let's not let the officials hear that. Can we take that off, please? No, but coming home for game number 2, man, game number 1 was electric. That was a fun environment.
Yes. Yeah, it's always, we got a lot of energy comes from our fans and our community. We play for them, so it's just kind of innate that we want to just have a great performance for that. Real comfortable. We don't have to travel. Being on the road, we've been 15 hours, we've been 8 hours on the road, and we've been 3 hours on the road. Just to be able to wake up and be able to wake up and play in front of your fans allows us to try to get out there and compete. So
yeah. And we are at yet another location up here at the Glacier Club. Want to remind you that the Prospector Restaurant is now open. It's open to the public for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Lots of gluten-free options, and a great place, obviously, as you see the scenery, to enjoy your meal. Also want to remind you that Coach's Corner is brought to you by Skyhawks Casino and TBK Bank. I'm going to take a minute here to check in on our community scoreboard. And we'll start things off with the 3-time Colorado State champion Bayfield Wolverines, who lose last weekend to Centauri 41-16. They're now 0-4 on the season. Coach, the reason I wanted to start with Bayfield is they're obviously a young team. You know the new coach down there. Mm-hmm. They're closer than I think an 0-4 record maybe indicates. This was the first week I really got to see tape on them, and that offense, big play, spread it out, open. Why are we seeing so much more of that in high school football? I think we're seeing spread in Durango. We're seeing spread in Bayfield now.
Yeah, football's kind of like a copycat no matter what.
Yeah.
Whatever's working, that's what's going to be the new trend. So, they're doing a good job trying to, I guess, spread the field and get their playmakers in space. I mean, you get guys that can make people miss. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, they lost to Aztec by 6. They lost to Moffett County 42-33. They'll be at Bloomfield, New Mexico this week. Ignacio falls to 1-3 after losing to Montezuma Cortez 24-0. Ignacio's lone win coming at Wingate, New Mexico, 46-0. League play for Ignacio and 1A ball starts this week against Trinidad. They'll be at Center next week. Montezuma Cortez now 2-3 after the win. The Panthers averaging 21 points a game. A little check-in on 8-man football as the Memphis Blue Jays fall in a battle of unbeatens 28-22, trying to erase a 10-point halftime deficit. They got some of it back, not all of it back. Now they're going to head to Monte Vista to play the Sargent Farmers this week. Durango, man, some momentum.
Yeah.
Another coach you're kind of familiar with, right?
Yeah.
They got it rolling.
Yeah, I'm really excited about them. They're spread a little bit up-tempo, and they're starting to get better and better each week.
Yeah, they're condemning Meade to a 30-16 loss last weekend, 4-1. They got an off week this weekend. League play will start in Summit County next week. Mm-hmm. Jackson Fincher, by the way, 17th most prolific rusher in the state. That's among all categories, 551 yards. Another big rusher, Gavin Lindahl, senior at Pagosa Springs. He's 7th in the state with 646 rushing yards as Pagosa Springs, now 2-2 after beating Alamosa 21-12. So that's a check-in on our community scoreboard. But, man, I want to get to Fort Lewis College Skyhawks football. So much to talk about. I want to talk about your home opener a little bit, but let's get to last week's game. A loss in maybe the most heartbreaking fashion,
Yeah.
a last-second field goal.
Yeah.
How are you now processing that now that you've had a couple days?
Yeah, I mean, it hurts, like you said, heartbreaking. Whenever you put your heart into it and you're straining the entire game and you come up empty-handed, it really hurts, After the locker room, guys were just in the locker room just sitting there, I was like, hey, we got to go, But just the magnitude of how close we were and how important it was, it just continued to kind of dwell within the team. But it's because everybody, really worked hard. There's a bunch of opportunities. Whenever you lose a close game, you kind of go, oh, it's the last play, or it was that play. Well, really, it could have been the first. It could have been in the first quarter. We could have had a different play then, So you just got to make sure that we're taking a holistic view of the entire game and what we could do better. And we have a good group of kids that are doing that and working hard every week, and it's important too. So whenever you do that, we're going to continue to improve.
Yeah.
So.
In some sense, too, it is evidence that things are trending the right way.
Yeah.
Hunter, I'm curious from your perspective in the locker room, what's the feeling amongst the team?
Everyone's upset about losing one of those tough nail biters at the end, but I can tell there's a lot more people with more passion towards the football program and all that, rather than just, oh, I played a good game, then it doesn't matter if we win or loss. There's just more emotion towards the program and towards Fort Lewis football, and I feel like people are really starting to care about the program.
Yeah. Coach, I know there's probably not a football coach in America who's, looking at record necessarily. But you have to be hopeful, right? Because there are signs of progress, whether it's, I think you've played everybody on your schedule this year closer than last year, and then you were seconds away from a win last week.
Yeah.
Do you look at it that way, or is that more kind of an outsider's 30,000-foot perspective?
No, I mean, you go into each game trying to win the game, and then that gives you perspective to look back, and so we went into the Adams State game trying to win the game and doing everything we possibly can, just like every week, and then now we didn't win the game. But, I mean, last year, I think we lost 57-17, So the perspective is, oh, yeah, we've definitely got a lot better than last year, but we'd rather have 2 more points this year and be happy about it, So that's just kind of the nature of it, of reflection. But, I feel like we're definitely progressing that way. And I feel like the locker room and the people that the players that we have, you gotta look out, and there's gonna be a bunch of kids that are out there fighting to win the game for the team and sacrificing for the team. So, yeah, we're definitely trending towards winning the game.
Now, Coach, you said in the last episode that even though that game didn't have its title anymore, it was still sort of a rivalry for Fort Lewis. Did it feel that way when you were on the field?
Yeah. I mean, we try to make sure that all our players knew the history of the game. So even though we don't have necessarily the musket, it's not the musket game anymore, traditionally what it's called, we still want to beat them. So musket, no musket, we're going after Adams State. We're keeping that. And so I feel like that we played with a lot of emotion, and it was their homecoming too. So that even gave us more energy to try to ruin their homecoming. So it didn't quite happen, but better days ahead.
Speaking of homecoming just a couple of weeks away for Fort Lewis College. We'll briefly preview that. We'll also talk about home schedule number 2, or home game number 2, coming up this weekend for Fort Lewis as we return after the break at the Glacier Club with the Skyhawks football coaching staff. Coach's Corner continues at the Glacier Club just north of Durango, Colorado. I want to remind you to come on out, join us at the Prospector Restaurant. Now open breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Joined by the Skyhawks coaching staff, head coach Johnny Cox, defensive backs coach and special teams coordinator Jordan Bible, and kicker Hunter Villavicencia. Coach Bible, I want to talk about special teams. What goes into coordinating such a wide array, a vast array of skill sets and teams?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty loaded from time to time, but for the most part on Saturday, it's really just about managing the substitutions, managing the different units based on what's going on in the game, and just making sure that there's a focus there and understanding who needs to be on the field at what time, and making sure those guys are reminded of their duties, what they're supposed to be doing. And then as long as everybody gets on the field and executes, then, makes my life pretty easy. Yeah. So, yeah.
Hunter, what got you into that side of the sport?
Well, I've always played soccer growing up, so I really just kind of easily walked into the kicking position in middle school and then just stuck with it all the way to college.
And now, do you kick and punt?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, for all the hard, and look, I was a soccer player too, so props. Yeah. But for as hard a time as you get on a amongst the hardcore football guys, I mean, there was a moment in that home opener in the second quarter, I think, where you guys were kind of had your backs against the wall a little bit. The offense finally got moving for the first time. You were at midfield, had to punt. And, man, you pinned that team. I think it was inside the 5. Do both of you guys think maybe it's an element of the sport where the importance of stuff like that doesn't necessarily get appreciated all the time?
Yeah, I think that definitely for just your average football onlooker who's spectating, they don't understand what we just refer to as the field position battle. And that's kind of the hidden yardage that a lot of people don't know about, right? Just those little moments that really can, one, change the momentum, but also put your offense or defense in a good position or a bad position isn't always talked about. So I definitely think that that's one of the more undercover, you really have to be a football aficionado to understand what we're doing, even though it's what we talk about every day, in the special teams rooms.
So I imagine that if you are talking about it so regularly, that's something that kind of gears you up.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting for me. Mm-hmm.
How take me through the technique of trying to pin a team. That has to be a little bit difficult because I can go out there and kick a punt. Mm-hmm. But I have no idea how to gear down or maybe angle it towards the pylon. What goes into that training?
So it's really starts with the catch and then your hold. So if you're trying to do a coffin corner, you're going to hold the ball a little bit differently so you can get a good backspin on it. But yeah, and then your swing is also matters too, because you want to have a straight swing, not swinging across your body, because then the ball is going to be a shank. But yeah, swing and hold are pretty important.
Good Lord. That's way more information than I ever thought about. We were on the golf course a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So probably all the same fundamentals as a golf swing with your leg, right?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
I had no control though. So. On the golf course, it was pretty bad. So
you wouldn't have recruited yourself.
No, definitely not.
Yeah. No, I know we want to look ahead because CSU Pueblo is coming to town. But Jordan, before we do that, I want to go back a little bit just because I've only had one chance to see this team in person and how your defensive backs kind of scheme into the overall defense on this team. I've always been fascinated about how coordinators and assistants mesh together. What was that process when you first met this defensive coordinator and kind of learned how to kind of work your guys in?
Yeah, so, I mean, as you alluded to, it's always a process, especially being an assistant under numerous coordinators during my duration as an assistant in my collegiate career. So upon meeting Coach Brown, I mean, that's the first thing. Day one, you get introduced and kind of you get the, the casualties out of the way of, hey, this is where I'm from, this is who I've learned under, and then it's right away, right to business. These are the coverages, what do you do, what's the terminology that we use, and all of that. So it's really just getting started on really what the business is going to be in the future. And so with Coach Brown, luckily we actually have a lot of kind of the same roots and ties as far as coverages that we've run in the past. So aside from some mixed terminology that you have to get on the same page, our perspective, right, our philosophy on coverage kind of molds into the same wheelhouse. So that made it an easier transition than some places, some coaches I've coached under where it's night and day difference of what I've learned, what I coached, what I even played under versus what a coordinator might have in their toolbox. So.
And now this defensive philosophy, 1 year old at Fort Lewis College. One thing I took away from the home opener was heart. There were so many instances where you guys were a score down and really didn't want to get more. And third down, guys came up, made a stop. Tell me about the guys on this defense.
Yeah, you talked about it already. Of course, we've said it week in, week out, we're a young team. But the thing that I think, and I've said since day one, is, basically our, the edge that we have on other teams is our youth and using that energy, right? And so we've really tried to, especially on the defensive side of the ball, really haven't been great on third down. So we've really tried to have in practice a focus on third downs, focus on notifying third downs, and create an energy even pre-snap, right? Before the third down even starts, with the idea that if you bring that kind of energy to the obstacle, the third down in front of you, then that's where you give yourself a real opportunity to be excited about it, to understand the play ahead. And then when you encapsulate that opportunity and you take advantage and you execute correctly, well, now we're really pumped up and fired up, and that's a fun experience to have as a player. So it's all about the buy-in that we've had from our guys on what third down means to us, what it means to our defense and our team, and those guys have bought in, and they're really having a fun time with it.
Is it more fun at home?
Oh, yeah, of course. Some of the environments, I can't lie, even this past weekend at Adams, the rival, and they have a good crowd out there as well for homecoming. When you turn a place silent, that's great. But, there's nothing like being at home, especially with a young team, on your own turf, on your own field, where everybody has a different expectation in front of their parents, their peers, their classmates, teachers. That's always going to be one that sticks with you.
Yeah. And CSU Pueblo coming to Durango this weekend. Coach, give us a little bit of a preview. It's a team that's been really dominant in the RMAC lately, but it's also a team Fort Lewis has had some success against.
Yeah. 2012 and 17, Fort Lewis was able to upset them. They ended their 48-game winning streak in 2012, and then and they were ranked number 2 in the nation then. And then I think 2017 they were ranked 17th in the nation and came in and were upset by Fort Lewis College. So it's been it's a game we're looking forward to. We're excited about the opportunity. They're a really good team. Their record, they're 1-3, but they played some national teams, actually ranked teams, lost to Mines, lost to Western, and lost to Grand Valley, but all those teams are very, very solid. So it'll be a great challenge this weekend.
I talk about their success recently. It's maybe even a little bit more than recently, but are they kind of a bellwether in terms of what you're trying to build? Do they provide a little bit of a blueprint almost?
Yeah, they have a really good situation there that they've kind of built up throughout the years, and so if you're able to go in and beat CSU Pueblo, that is definitely like a landmark game, and those teams that have beat CSU Pueblo in the past from Fort Lewis College, I'm sure those alumni still talk about that because it's a big deal. We're growing towards that. And we want to be able to compete with them with recruits and on the field and everything else, and I think we can. It's just a process. So we're looking forward to definitely future competition against them, and starting with this weekend.
Yeah. That game will be at noon at Ray Dennison Field this upcoming Saturday on the campus of Fort Lewis College. You've been watching Coach's Corner. Guys, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Coach's Corner brought to you by Skyhawks Casino, TBK Bank, and of course hosted here at the Prospector Club at Glacier, just about 20 minutes north of town. Until the next time, we'll see you on the field.